I'm Marloes and I'm a Dutch chemical engineer living in the UK for the last 7 years. In a previous video I've spoken about some of the perhaps strange habits of Dutch people. But obviously I'm biased, so what I will do in this video, I will show you some of those habits from an English perspective, but also clearly show you how the history of the UK and the Netherlands are linked. Some of the history is spoken about in this book, Why the Dutch Are Different. So it really made me go back to my school days, and a funny anecdote in this book is where I was asking for the English level of Dutch people. And the only options were okay, great and fantastic. So I think that tells you enough. But this book actually goes a little bit deeper into the history that the Dutch and the English have. And that's why I thought it was quite interesting to read. And the first part is where it goes back to William of Orange. His personal colours formed both the basis of the Dutch flag, but it was also the reason why orange is our national colour of celebration. But it's not just in the Netherlands. Northern Ireland's Protestants still celebrate him and have this march where they go clad in orange, which is presumably because of the successes he had against in fighting the Catholics. The Netherlands might be a small country, but it's left a lasting mark on the world. And there are not a lot of people who speak Dutch outside of the Netherlands, but you will see Dutch influence in a lot of names and places. So for instance, the prime example here is New York. This actually used to be New Amsterdam, where there was a settlement in Manhattan, which is traded with the English in order for them to abandon Suriname in South America. The names in New York which have this Dutch heritage include Haarlem, which is the same as the city of Haarlem, Flushing, the same as Vlissingen, it's the city close to where I live, Brooklyn, named after Breukelen, but even in Broadway you can see it because this was after the Brede Weg in the name. So for them traveling around, this has been one of the main reasons Dutch speak many languages. So at least 3 or 4 for most Dutch people that you know. So you learn this in school and you probably learn English before you go to school because most of the programs are not dubbed. So now I've talked to you a little bit about the history and what the UK and the Netherlands have in common. But the behaviour of the people is completely different. Can you imagine the UK Prime Minister actually cycling to work? During the Second World War, before the whole of the Netherlands was liberated, there was the Hunger Winter. This was the winter of 1945, where it was very cold and there was hardly any food, and people even had to eat the flowers. Now they say because of this hardship, the Dutch are quite known to be thrifty, and obviously you've got the saying of going Dutch in restaurants where you are splitting bills. The Dutch word for that is actually schuld, which is the same as guilt, so that could be linked to our attitude towards money. So besides the attitude towards money, there's also a very different way of how we celebrate things in the Netherlands. So I mentioned before that orange is our national colour. So even when we come second in the football, and I guess for the English this has been quite recent with their loss to Italy, in the Netherlands that's a reason for a celebration. We don't just dwell in it, we still go on the streets, and I remember this when we lost the World Cup to Spain, we definitely celebrated this as well. Other things that are very different is that probably Amsterdam is best known as the most tolerant city in the world. They say that this could be linked to the Dutch geography, because we have no mountains, there's nowhere to hide. The Dutch also are very well known for what we call the polder model. This is the model where people take a long time to decide on something and they negotiate and discuss everything with each other. And this probably has to do with the fact that we had to fight against our oppressors for a long time, such as for instance Spain. So hopefully what you've seen from this video is that there's definitely a clear link in history between the Netherlands and the UK, much more than I originally thought and much more that we probably are taught in school. By looking at our history, you can also see where some of the habits that we have in the Netherlands are perhaps somewhat different. And it does give an explanation for instance, why you don't like spending money. If you want to know more about strange Dutch habits, or if you want to have a look at quirky British habits, then have a look at these videos.